And what's going on, everybody? It is Will BK, and we're back here. Where are we? We're on the Triple Radio Show, of course, here at S.STREET Media. And, of course, you didn't forget the lovely lady in the house. We got Genergy. And, of course, over there we got Hardy Brooklyn. Okay. We are here at the Triple Radio Show. We always have different things going on here, different people from different walks of life and authors and screenwrites and breaks and all that stuff. So, once again, we have an author in here. She is an acclaimed author within the sex community, and she has a great insight of, her experiences and stories, and she has a great book out that's getting ready to come out called 52 Fridays. And I want to tell you what it's about, but I'm going to kind of let you wait for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the phone we have Kamala Debbie with us, everybody. Hey, Kamala, how are you?
Welcome.
How you doing?
Doing great. Calling in from San Diego. It's a pleasure to meet you.
San Dog? You know? Well, but they don't really say it like that out there. I was in Studio City. I lived there for 2 years, so you know. So I know we cannot wait, and a lot of our people are here, and they are dying to know what this 52 Fridays is about. It sounds freaky and kinky, and so it's a great way to kick off National Kink Month. And I'm going to let Hardy Brooklyn kind of lead us into the future with you. So if you don't mind, Hardy Brooklyn, please take it away, sir.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write the book and what people should expect to get out of the book?
Sure. When I say we, it was myself and about a dozen lovers, because I'm in a polyamorous marriage. We were on a reality TV show called Polyamory, Married, and Dating. Wow. And that was with Showtime. And we had so many questions about how do you do, multiple open relationships. And we even had one kink scene on TV, and there was questions about how to negotiate agreements and all of that. And what I find is that I can teach until I'm blue in the face, but people really get the teachings when they read stories. They want the juicy, kind of like the reality TV show. They want drama. So I decided to write a dramatic novel to explore and explain kink, and it's way more interesting than reading another how-to book.
That sounds way more interesting for sure.
So how many different relationships, this is Will BK, how many relationships are you in? Is it one full relationship, or is it like one relationship and sub relationships under the relationship? How does that really kind of pan out?
It's a great question, because it's always changing, and especially during the pandemic, that's affected a lot of people who have multiple relationships. But I will say I have a steady, for 20 years now, I'm in a solid marriage, and that's with a man. And I also have had, for the last 8 years, a girlfriend, and I've got a couple that I've been seeing for the last 4 years. And if I count his lovers as well, my husband's lovers as well, and their lovers, we usually, add up
busy.
to a dozen.
Wow.
Will wants to know how you have that much time.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you give up that much ass?
Well, time is the stuff that life is made of, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
It's really like what life's about. So we dedicate our times to the things we value,
mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like if I was a expert, sailor, I'd be out at sea every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm instead totally prioritizing love and dating and connecting, and so it becomes the area that I'm most expert in is what you spend your most time doing. So I look at it like that's just the best hobby there is being a lover.
Agreed. That's beautiful.
Are you able to? Do you have like sex night, or do y'all have any type of theme night or game nights, or do you have anything special? I know that, I mean, the relationship itself is special itself, don't get me wrong, but do you have any particular type of, I don't know, game night, you know?
Yeah,
Whose dick is this? Whose titties are that? Or, you know?
There's a lot of
You mean
lovers to pick from.
kinky game?
Yeah.
I thought you were asking about date night. You know, the title of the book, 52 Fridays, is actually based on 52 play dates. So Fridays were play date time between me and my girlfriend for, you know, and in this case it was a year, but in reality it was like 5 years. We had a standing play date in which we would create different kinky scenes for each other. And so the book is loosely based on that. It's a fictionalized account, but during, you know, those play dates, we would go into fantasy role play, and that's with one lover. I would say as a group of lovers, we also have potlucks, which is another kind of like date night where everyone gets together and gets to meet each other. And then my husband and I have a high, holy, sacred date night once a week, because I think, you know, if you're going to have a lot of lovers, you need to really invest in the primary relationship to make sure that that's on solid ground before adding others. So, you know, we've had a weekly date night now for, you know, 15 years.
Really beautiful.
I mean, how do you kind of stay committed to each person that you're involved with? Does the time that you spend with them change? Everyone gets the same amount of time every day. Some people doesn't get any time. How does that balance out in terms of designation of time?
Well, I'm so grateful that you picked up on the commitment part, because the way that I do relationship is about, you know, deep, invested, like showing up for each other. Mm-hmm. And that's not how everybody does it. Like some people are like, no strings attached, we play for a while, you know, we move on. And that's awesome too. I just want to say that I advocate that people do relationship the way that works for them. I happen to be a really committed person. But I would be foolish if I wanted to give everybody equal time. Mm-hmm. That would be an exercise in I would just fall on my face. It would be just too hard to navigate that. So what I let guide me is what does each relationship need uniquely, because each relationship is different, and what does it need to be at its best? And, you know, if there's a relationship that needs more than I have available, like needs a lot, it's like I have to, you know, help that person get resourced in other places, because I'm not under the illusion, you know, I can't meet one person's needs. There's no way to meet everybody's needs. So the people I play with have to be willing to crowdsource, you know, their own needs, and have to be pretty self-sufficient as well.
And you have to do a lot around defining your boundaries, correct?
That's right. Defining your boundaries, and also managing expectations or relationship agreements.
Are you ever?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you saying what you said about commitment, because I think a lot of people, when they hear of anybody being in anything other than the stereotypical relationship of a couple, anything polyamorous, that they think that commitment isn't involved in that. So I like that. I'm really glad that you touched on that and brought that into it, because people don't realize that, and they think that it means that you don't have any commitment, and that you don't, almost like you can't really love more than one person. And I don't think that that love can be measured. And so I really appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you.
Yeah, and there are healthy models of polyamory or open relating, and there's also unhealthy models. And a lot of people who see unhealthy models are fear of commitment. I'm going to see a lot of people because I don't want to commit to one person. But that's not, that's just an immature expression that eventually, when somebody kind of grows up, they're like, oh, this is about showing up for love. And then the other unhealthy expression is the possessiveness, like I need to be the only source of your pleasure in order for you to make my ego feel, like I'm worthy, and then you're in an ego game. So
yeah, I think ego can play a big role in relationships in that way, and just the way that you said.
Yeah.
Do you find it? No, so I'm asking you a difficult question. I know. So I'm the questions I'm on fire tonight. So I'm glad you.
His eyes are popping out of his head.
Now I'm gonna ask you a little difficult question. I'll try to answer it the best way you can, because I know that's going to be one of these answers. Now, out of all your lovers that you have, do any of them, without really mentioning their name, do any of them try to, have these side conversations with you, like, I can love you better than them, or they can love you better than me, or stuff like that. You really need to spend more time with me. Is that a good question?
Somebody in a monogamous relationship would say that.
That's a good boundaries question.
I'm on fire, man. I'm on fire tonight.
It's a recipe for disaster. Again, if you have anyone who's, one of the policies that I have, like if I wanted to date Hardy, for example, I would say, hey, Hardy, like, I'd love to, explore, play, make a scene with you, but one of the conditions on which I do that is I keep no secrets from my lovers. Like, there's nothing that we would talk about or experience that I would keep away from my partners. And so if someone's not okay with that, then I wouldn't be a good match. Like, if Hardy wanted to be really private, I'd be like, okay, I'm not available for that.
That's too much work.
Because that privacy and that
the private
secrecy,
stuff.
To be private, stay
that
private.
can actually, it fragments the whole web, and it can kind of pathologize love, is trying to keep it private.
It just seems like, I guess, to the normal person, even going back to
normal monogamous person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Monogamous thinking.
Yeah. But it's interesting when you say it's too much work. I mean, isn't it just exhausting to, when is your time for yourself? Because you constantly have to cater to someone's desires, needs,
or own too.
And as well as your own. Is there any just time for yourself where it's like, oh damn, I don't have to touch someone's dick right now. I don't have to suck someone's titties again, even though I don't mind it. But is there any downtime for just you?
Again, these are like golden questions, right? Like,
oh man, I'm telling you, fire.
The bingo, yeah, that was the jackpot question, because this whole thing falls apart and it completely degrades if you don't have self-love first. Like, there's just no way to, like, give from an empty cup. So in order to have a lot of lovers, in order to have one lover, you have to, love yourself. But then if you want more, you have to come from abundance, which means more self-care, more, morning practice or spa dates or self-nourishing in order to actually show up to these dates like resourced.
I feel like you're showing that you love yourself just by you getting the things that you want and having the relationships that you want, and it looking like whatever it looks like that's perfect for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it. And I see you as getting those days and having your 52 Fridays and having that whole scene thing going on, and then whatever you have on Thursdays, or if you have it like that, you know what I mean? It'd be your weekly date night with your husband. So it's always coming from a place of where you're passionate about it, because you're showing that's where you want to show up.
That's right. And that's what the readers can expect to get from the book, which is like, if you want a radical role model of someone who's saying, fuck conventions, I'm going to do love in a way that works not just for me selfishly, but works for my whole ecosystem, in a way that works for me, works for my husband, works for everybody involved. And so if you want to see that role modeled, that's what happens in the book.
Wow. So I'm like, I hope this one is out the park too.
I can't wait to read the book.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. Now let me ask you this question. Now let's say, now your husband, of course, is she's the top of the food chain, you know. So I know he's the king thing, you know. But
That's right.
but if there's a problem with him, does that mean nobody's getting no loving? If your husband's not happy about something, nobody's getting any. Or is it a matter of, if there's a problem with me and my husband, I can still rock and mess with this person for, you know, or how does that work if there's an issue with your husband? Is that a good question?
So it's great because different people do it differently. And I can answer for myself, but this, you know, there are a lot of people who are like, hey, we're a package deal, and, you know, I only play to the degree that my husband's in, or if he's okay with it and I have his permission, otherwise he might veto you. And there are different ways of arranging relationships. And for me, you know, I would tell, again, I'll use Hardy as an example. I would say,
Got a lot of play tonight, Hardy.
hey, let's play. I'll tell you, Hardy, how available I am, which is that when things are going great in my marriage, I'm very resourced and I have a lot to give you. But there's times when my marriage needs more attention, and in those times I may not be as available to you. And so I would set up a relationship like that so that Hardy understood that my marriage is a priority.
And everybody understands the game. Or everybody understands the relationships. Everybody knows what the rules are, what everybody's boundaries are, and what everybody's expectations are.
Yeah, but it's still it's still that but. You know, and the thing about it is, it's interesting. Let me get your opinion on something. Let's talk about Will and Jada for a second. That whole entanglement. I don't know if you're familiar with the entanglement type of thing. Now, apparently, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's attachment theory, but I'm not sure what. So I don't have a frame of reference for what you're.
Okay. I could explain it. You know. Well, Will Smith, Jada Smith. They apparently have an open relationship. Well, of course, which they may have not announced to the world, but inside circles know what it really is. So they have an open relationship. So apparently, Jada's situation probably was feeling a certain way about. Maybe he really was getting into her a little bit more than he should, or what have you. And him being the young guy, now he came out and kind of told the world, I had a relationship with Jada. And he said, I had this conversation with Will, and Will understood this, that, and the other. But then
she called it an entanglement.
And she called it an entanglement at her red table thing.
I see.
And so situations like that, or well, from what you understand, situations like that where someone's feelings, because even though you might understand the situation, sometimes feelings is the number one thing about any type of relationship. So if he's feeling a certain way, damn, I forgot where I was going with it because it was so juicy. Now I'm all over the place with it.
Well, I will comment that we can make impeccable agreements and rules and say this is how it's going to go, but then the heart and the body as well, like, plays by its own rules. It's like we can actually fracture, and the mind and the consciousness does one thing, but then the body and the heart does something else.
Right.
And sometimes there's soul contracts. Maybe it's not even physical. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to not see that person, but the soul takes you to that person because there's some medicine that needs to be exchanged with you and them. And what's really important about doing multiple relationships is that it's not just one self. You're actually in multiple relationships within yourself. We're multidimensional beings. And so you want to have, again, it's part of that self-care and that self-love where you want to know yourself well enough that you're in harmony, you're working together as a healthy committee. And then when you show up to make an agreement or you're communicating from all parts of you, not just letting your head be a tyrant and make the rules when your body is going, I can't keep that rule. So it really does require a lot of self-wisdom if you're going to have a really evolved and complex system.
That was well put.
That is that. It's so I know I'm gonna throw a word at you that really doesn't exist, but I do say it. It's so unseen of. I know you like what's unseen of. Unseen of is a word I came up with, means that something that you can't describe by looking at it or talking about it. So I say it's unseen of. So that's really unseen of.
So she actually, she also has another book, The Secret Lives of Sex Shamans, which is a story about their journey.
That sounds great.
Is that
It's actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Both books just came out, and the Sex Shaman book is a whole collection of different stories. And so it's kind of the unseen of aspect. It's like, okay, well, let's start talking to sex shamans and hearing the things that you never see or hear and can't even speak of, and let's see that in 20 different stories back to back so that you can get a transmission of like, oh, it's different for every person, and maybe, just maybe, everybody has access to being a sex shaman. And the book is designed to help awaken that inside of you, the reader, and it's something that nobody talks about.
Okay, I got another one for you. What about those moments? Because I know me and you are so in sync right now. I know there's those little in-between moments where it can be just a light hand grab of don't go, or I can't, I can't, or don't go. There's just those little in-between moments. How do those come across to you? I'm sure they do come from time to time. Do you fall into those? Are you strong? Like I got to go, or I can't stay, or do you sometimes? Don't do this. Do you get caught up in those little nuances?
Yeah, I think it's very human. It's like okay, my.
That's right. Pick the right lover now.
It's like maybe my little girl wants a little bit more of you, and you have to go back to your wife, and it's hard to let that person go in that moment, and it's just having compassion for, like, we are limited by time and space, but in love we're unlimited. Like the truth is we're these infinite beings, but we have to play in three-dimensional reality that is always limited. And so there is a constant mourning of like, ooh, I want more. I always want more. Mm-hmm. But that's the reality of this lifetime.
It definitely keeps you coming back, too. If you have to be pulled away like that. You're excited about the next time you come together again.
So, just so we don't get cut off.
It's like a aphrodisiac.
Oh, come on.
It is an aphrodisiac. So where can people find your book, and where can people find you?
So my book is available everywhere that books are sold, both 52 Fridays and Sex Shamans. And I'd love to stay in touch through kamaladevi.com. And I actually even have a free chapter and free gifts if you sign up for my newsletter there at kamaladevi.com.
Definitely will do that. I want to check both books out.
That's www.KAMALADEVI.com.
Is that it? We ain't got no more. I got more questions.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Go ahead. I mean,
You could go. You could go.
I'm saying I don't want to take you away from your people.
There's so many.
I'm saying. All right. I'll couple more questions. I'm really fascinated. Wow.
I look forward to more.
Oh, okay. Ow. I'm sure you said it to all your partners. Ow. You get it? Let me ask you. Let me ask you this: are all of your lovers of the same race, or do you have multifaceted lovers? If I may ask.
I would love to be more diverse. I have like a trans woman that I'm seeing right now, and I'm Latina and I'm Jewish, and I've dated through the rainbow, but the current clique of who I can see during COVID is pretty white. So just a demographic reality right now.
Wow, you need an African American to complete the set. I'm trying to tell you. Oh wow.
Sounds like an invitation.
Okay.
Are you flirting with me?
No, I mean, I don't know if you have room for.
He's blushing.
I'm saying I wasn't, you know. But if I'm ever out there and you need a fourth, you know, I'll definitely.
Okay.
All right,
Blessings. Thank you.
All right, well, all right, I'm asking one more question. Well, 'cause I know you gotta go, and we're getting ready to do some wax play in here. So, and put some on my behind and stuff. I know, right?
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So one more question: do you? I don't know which question I want to ask you because there's so many I want to ask you. Is there pretty much do people usually come up to you, or do you usually come up to people? Do you have a rap?
Like meeting new lovers?
Like when you're meeting new lovers, or do lovers have an interesting rap that gets you? Or what's usually the connection when you want to be like, I want that?
So you're asking about game. Like what's the
well, we say rap, yeah, you know. What's your rap?
Cool, rap.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Game's
So,
good too.
You know,
Yeah, I would say that my my checklist or my bar for who I date is kind of outrageously selective, even though it sounds like I'm really slutty. Like I have a lot of lovers, but it's like
Sounds
you
like you
have
have a
to
lot
be
of fun.
you have to be poly, kinky, queer, tantric, and have lots of experience in all of those areas to actually be a fit with me. And that rules a lot of people out. And, you know, so in a first date, I'm often looking at where we probably aren't a match because I've got so little time. In fact, there's a term called, like, saturated. So I'm not particularly, you know, like out on the hunt or the prowl because it's, you know, if I'm going to be met, it's going to be a really high bar.
Oh, I heard that. I know you be wearing motherfuckers out, don't you? You gotta be with all the motherfucking lovers you got. I know you be wearing motherfuckers out. But I hear you. But
He's worn out just for having the conversation.
I'm saying, man, it is unseen up. And you can have that word. I'm trying to tell you, people will love that word. You can have unseen up. Just don't copyright, because then I won't be able to use it. All right. Well, Kamala Devi, thank you so very much for joining us here on the Trip Over Radio Show. We really enjoyed talking to you.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. And we will be back in a few minutes on the Trip Over Radio Show with your boy, Will BK, Honey Brooklyn, Jenner G. And, yeah, we're going to go around and scratch our butts. We'll be back in a few minutes.